I have to address the real reason you're in pain right now. You feel alone in your marriage. The harder you fight, the more she seems to pull away. But why? Talking about the problem should lead to resolution, but it just creates more problems. Being nice to her should show her how much you care, but it only makes her more mean. And therapy is designed to fail, especially when she is completely checked out. So here's the truth. None of those surface level fixes address the real reason a woman decides to stay or leave a relationship. There is one core need she has that must be satisfied first above all other needs. And there is one skill that unlocks it. Without this one skill that triggers her deepest desire, nothing else will work. But by the end of this video, when you discover what it is and how to use it, you unlock endless attraction. You get her to look up at you again. And most importantly, you get her to let go of the past and only focus on the future with you. Let's discuss the fundamental problem first. You see, most men think that fixing their marriage and getting their wife to change her mind is like fixing a car. When your car breaks down, you notice the immediate symptoms. You then go to an expert who has seen the same exact issue hundreds of times, and he gives you the exact fix that has worked for every other car with the same problem. But for your marriage, it's total chaos. There's one expert out there that says, just give her space. And then another one says, no, be more romantic, shower her with love. And even your divorced friends tell you to just trade it in for a younger model. Your marriage is not a car. When it breaks down, you don't just replace a part and expect it to run smoothly. It's more like this living ecosystem. Every action creates ripples. And if you don't address the right thing, you'll make it worse. Part 1 of this massive ERM video will show you how her brain actually works, with 3 key differences between you and her. It'll show you why she immediately shut off her emotions towards you at one point. I will also reveal how is it that she just can alternate back and forth with her perceptions and memories of events, almost as if there's 2 separate people inside of her. And then I will show you why you were only given half of the husband map. Part 2 of this video, you will discover what most men do wrong. I will lay out the top 3 mistakes that men make when trying to reset their wife's emotions, and why each of those backfires and it causes just repulsion and disgust within her, confirming in her mind that you are not the man that is meant for her. And then finally, part 3, I will show you what men do right. You will understand the 4 keys of the ERM method. It starts with an internal process, and I will show you how to remove a self-sabotaging virus that has entered into your mind and your relationship that feeds you lies, pushing her further away, and how to get rid of it immediately. This will reduce all resentment, and I will show you the top skill that you need to succeed with her. And when I say top skill, I'm saying top skill because most of the men in our program agree that this one skill is what led to the most success with her turning her emotions around. You will then discover a paradox that also, when mastered, gets her to immediately start to see you differently. And then finally, a testing framework that gets her to stress test the new you to prove to her that you're the guy. So let's jump in. All right, part 1 is her mental blueprint. Now, most of the confusion and pain in fixing a failed marriage comes from not understanding how her mind works. Let's look at 3 examples of how you differ from her. Look, the first one is that she trusts emotions over everything. Women focus on intuition and feelings more than men. When I first arrived at my new apartment joint here, new complex, I worked upstairs in the common area and saw this woman sitting there, and I wanted to meet new people, so I started speaking to her. Eventually, within 5 minutes, I found out she just moved out after breaking up with her boyfriend of 10 years. They were engaged to be married, living together with a dog, and just the life was planned out, right? They were together and everything was perfect, so it seemed. So of course I asked, like, what happened? And guess why she ended it? Was it cheating? Nope, not from either side. Did he physically or financially or emotionally abuse her? Nope. I mean, did he all of a sudden want kids and she didn't? No. She said that her stomach told her it was the right thing to do. Now look, I know for a lot of guys that hear that, they get angry or confused, and they're just frustrated with how women can operate in that manner. How they can just make a snap decision, changing life, avoiding a commitment of 10 years. Everything seemed right on the surface, and she just changes her mind just like that because her stomach told her to, because her intuition said so. But look, the truth is, as you'll see, he wasn't meeting a specific need that she had, which most guys, when they come to our program, they say, I wasn't cheating on her, I wasn't abusing her, why'd she leave? Because men don't understand what's missing, and I'll share that in the blueprint later on. But you must understand, she trusts her intuition over logic. Women give so much more weight to how they feel inside their body, just a subconscious, just all knowing what's something that's right for them or wrong for them, okay? It is not about logic and why they stay in the relationship. You must understand this. She leaves when her heart or stomach tells her to. You will stay committed even when you're not feeling it. And that's beautiful. We have, amount of commitment and honor within us. But a lot of women will choose their own happiness over sacrifice. After years of disappointment, of course, yeah, they'll sacrifice for years, but eventually they'll trust their gut and just go on with what their heart tells them okay? Okay, the second way she's different than you explains her back and forth nature. Now I want you to imagine this glass of water here resembles the clarity in which she sees the relationship. When it is crystal clear, she can see right through the water into you and your future together. There is no doubt in her mind. Well, every time she gets into a fight with you, this powder will resemble the resentment or the pain of the conflict. And it's supposed to, imagine it going to the bottom, but you can see it starts to get murky, right? And this is when you're fighting, she's mad at you, but over time, what should happen is, if this was heavier, sand and rocks, it would float to the bottom and then the water would be clear. But then she would be happy again. But over time, the more times you get in fights, the more dirt you add to this water, yes, it'll go to the bottom, eventually rest, and you'll see the clearness. Every time that the fights happen and it just gets stirred up again, it gets more and more cloudy because of all the years of built up resentment at the bottom, okay? Because it never gets cleared out. And so what happens is that each time you fight about something, she gets more angry, more hurt about the smallest of things. This is why in the beginning of the relationship, if you didn't call her back, or you didn't do a chore, pick up something for her, you forgot something at the grocery store, she'd get a little upset, but it's not a big deal. But because there's so much built up resentment there, the smallest of things charge up all these years of resentment and everything gets triggered together and she cannot see clearly. And so you must understand ways to reduce that resentment, but we'll talk about that later in this video. All right, let's talk about the third difference in that you were only given half the map. Now let's face it, you were sold a lie. You were told that if you provide financially, are reliable, give affection, protection, and do enough chores around the damn house, she'll always be happy. But that's not true. She has other needs that she used to get met and no longer does. So let's look at 7 examples of how this plays out with you and her. Number 1, you do provide financially, but no longer emotionally. Number 2, you're reliable, but you're not exciting to her. You're always there, always dependable, but the relationship feels stagnant because you're not spontaneously bringing playfulness like you used to. There's a quote from Esther Perel that talks about this. She said, "Love enjoys knowing everything, but desire needs mystery. The more we merge in intimacy, the less space there is for the kind of intrigue that fuels passion." Esther Perel talks a lot about that, so I check her out. Now look, relationships need a dose of unpredictability, playfulness to stay passionate. You will avoid conflict, but you won't create resolution. The next one is that you'll give affection, but not attraction. It's good to show love through affection and kind words, but that doesn't maintain attraction. That's maintained through masculine energy and leading her all the time, and that ramps up her arousal. The next one is that you'll protect her, but you won't challenge her. You may defend and support her, but never set boundaries or assert things that may cause conflict and maintain respect. You may do household tasks, but you're not taking initiative on them. Oftentimes, you wait for her to plan things or come up with new things to do around the house, and you'll follow orders like a good guy will, but it helps take off her mental load if you can predict the things that she needs done. This is a big one, which is you will be present, but you're not engaged. And you may be physically there, spending time at home, next to her on the couch, at the dinner table, but you're distracted. Even if you're not on your phone, she is too. You're in your head, you're somewhere else. You're not with her in that moment, which is even more painful because you're physically there, but you're emotionally distant. And this only reinforces the idea in her mind that you're not the right person for her. All right, part 2 is all about the 3 marriage reset myths. Now, the first myth is that talking about the problems, it doesn't actually solve things. It makes more problems. Let's look at this equation real quick. When you talk about the problems more, you bring them up. I want to discuss things. I want to work through it with dialogue. What that happens is that she starts to associate those negative emotions and you're bringing back these issues, poking on a wound without the right ointment. And then she starts to say, well, this guy makes me feel bad. She's not consciously registering that, but like every time you bring up the problem, start to talk about things, it's like, here's another negative interaction we're going to have. It's going to cause more stress, and compounded over time, she starts to associate the problems with you. This is classical conditioning. If you've ever heard of what classical or operant conditioning is, it's 2 stimuluses when paired together. Even when the original is causing the effect, she's going to say the other one causes the effect as well. And so she's going to associate you and problem together. I even found a study right here that says happy couples tend to take a solutions-oriented approach to conflict. And this is even clear in the topics they choose to discuss. There's a really cool clip here where Joe Rogan talks about it.
I never really considered that until your book. Until I heard the title of your book and I read the synopsis of it, I never really considered it. I never considered that thinking about your problems all the time and talking about your problems all the time literally make the problems grow.
That's right.
Now, this problem idea is also correlated with the emotional tipping scale I created. So there is this positive scale and negative side of the scale, okay? This is the negative emotional experiences she has with you. This is the positive. And we can categorize every emotional experience into positive or negative. Either it's fear or love, going towards or moving away, okay? And every time, let's say in the beginning of the relationship, that resembles all the love, the marriage, the kids, everything good. And you're in the positive perspective. Like when you're there, it's just nothing you do can be wrong because you are the hero in her life. This is when all the red flags are ignored and just you can do no wrong. But over time, what happens with the years of neglect and all the things going wrong and just you weren't there for her, you betrayed her some way, you lied to her, just whatever it is, little micro tears in the relationship started to shift things into the negative perspective. And when you're in this negative sentiment override, which is what the Gottmans call it, no matter what you do, it's seen through the lens, the filter of negativity. Even doing the right things, which we'll talk about in a second, being nice to her, she's filtering it through, oh, he's being negative. And so every time we talk about the problems, it just adds more negative weight into the scale. Now, the ERM method is designed to completely eradicate all the negative behaviors, which I'll show you in a second. But just know that focusing on the problems when you're in this side of things and the negative sentiment override, it'll never work, okay? You must reset her emotions first, which is where most therapists get it wrong. If you guys wanna see it in another cycle here, you can see if the wife experiences stress, okay? Oftentimes as a man, you'll react, defend, minimize, try to logicize your way through it. That leads to the demon dialogue where she criticizes, you defend, then she criticizes even more, and she attacks your ego, then she says hurtful things, and you try to prove her wrong, and just it never gets resolved when you're in that dialogue. So resentment grows, and when she's more resentful, that scale tips further and further, and the smallest of things will trigger her even further. Okay, so the second myth is that couples therapy can save marriages. And as a therapist myself, I'm not saying all therapists are bad. There are some good ones, but so much of the model is just outdated, okay? Where we're at right now, it's just been proven, just like with medical advances. We've shown, therapy has even updated itself, where it used to be where the clinician was an expert of the other person's life. Now most therapy approaches, they say the client's the expert, but still there are some fundamental fallbacks with therapy, couples therapy, that just doesn't work. And I'll just tell you through a story that's gonna double on the point of the problems. I remember this couple, they came into work with me, one of the first couples I ever worked with. And when they came in to see me, the wife was already checked out. When I shook her hand, she didn't make eye contact. That first session, she was just rolling her eyes at every single thing the husband did. And the husband was the nicest guy ever. And he just wanted to keep his family together. But I could also see a lot of the faults he had too with being a very nice guy, not having strong boundaries and losing his edge and being overly doting, etc., etc. Everything a lot of guys do wrong in the marriages. But even so, they would still try to work on things. They would go on dates. But sometimes when they would come in there, they said that they had a date planned out before coming into therapy. They thought it'd be cool. And they come into therapy and they say, Josh, before coming to last week's session, we were pretty good. We were looking forward to the date. But after we left, we just had a horrible time. And I'm like, well, it's part of the process. We got to stir up these things and look it up and clear the wound and all this stuff before it starts to heal. And I started to doubt that because I started to see a different approach working in other cases. And I found that most often, couples therapy doesn't work. And another thing that's not really addressed with couple therapists is a lot of these therapists, they don't have a lot of personal experience themselves in relationships. They haven't worked with thousands of couples and seen all the different dynamics, and they just come in there and they were trained in their one modality and they stick to it, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but there's not a lot of continuing education going on and experimenting. It's like you stick to your model and you don't question anything else. And we see this all the time. One of our clients, Jim, said, I'm convinced her therapist is pushing her to stay the course. Wife has been pleasant and nice to be around for the last week. Monday she came home after therapy and she's been straight up mean and nasty. And this happens all the time in our sessions. We tell guys, they ask us, should I see a therapist? I said, yes, you can see an individual therapist to process an event and to get another opinion. But couples therapy, it doesn't work until you shift her and reset her emotions first. All right, let's move on to the third myth, which is that being nice actually works. It doesn't, it makes her mean. You would think that giving your wife more of what she wants, what she's asked for over the years, you diagnose all the issues like that car analogy I gave you in the beginning, and the problem will be solved. But the more you try to make her happy, the less she wants you. She doesn't want you to try to make her happy. She just wants you to make her happy. Let me explain. If you tried buying her gifts, expensive dinners, coming home early from work, agreeing with her just so she's no longer upset, you are pushing her away with your neediness. She sees this for what it is. Okay, it is reactionary. When I say it's reactionary, as the man in your masculine, what we teach here is that you must be taking the lead. You must not react, or you must do things from your own internal values because you know it's right. When you react to her, she does something and you're panicking and trying to fix things, you are stepping into your feminine state, which repulses her. She can tell that you're just doing it just to make her happy. It's not coming from an authentic place, right? There's an attachment to that thing that you're doing, saying, if I do this, you'll come back, right? And that is the essence of neediness, and it is the exact opposite of what attraction is. See, you cannot logically change her mind. That's like walking up to a woman that you just met, right? Say you're single, whatever. Like, hey, look at my Rolex here. Like, I got a nice new Mercedes-Benz out back. We should go for a little test drive. It's like, is that gonna work? Like, no, I live in this mansion. Like, none of these logical things. Like, look how tall I am. Look at my bank account. I've seen this before on like Instagram Reels and stuff. Where people try to show their worth to a woman and think that it'll just, all of a sudden, look at what you have. That's not how her mind works. And the same thing is being applied when you try to use logic to keep her. When you try to use the memories, the kids. What about the vows we made in our wedding? None of that works, okay? Because logic cannot influence her emotions. All right, part 3, the 4 keys of the ERM method. Okay, so you know how her mind works and the mistakes that will make things worse. Now let's talk about how to reset her emotions with the 4 keys of the ERM method. Now first we have to agree on some premises before showing you the actual keys. Remember the water filter theory? That dirt at the bottom was her unprocessed pain, her resentment. And in order for it to be cleaned up and washed away, you must accept some fundamental truths about emotional processing, intergender dynamics, and perceptive shifting. The first idea you have to accept in order for this to work is that emotions dictate our perceptions, okay? You can have 3 different people, okay, that vibrate at a different emotional frequency. And I'm not gonna get too granular here or esoteric or whatever, but let's say one person, he's always depressed. He has clinical depression, he's always sad. This person's like Mr. Enlightenment. Like, we all have that friend that's just like, no matter what, he's always happy. And then we have this third guy who is like Mr. Angry, just a lot of pent up rage. I mean, his dad physically abused him and he always wants to fight, okay? Let's say each of these 3 people all get into a car accident. Person A is gonna be like, oh no, everything happens wrong to me. Like, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna die. Like, I'm a crappy driver, right? Person B over here is gonna wanna fight the guy, of course. Person C, he's probably gonna get out, make sure the other person's okay, probably make a cool connection. It's like a business connection, or they become best friends. And so you can see how whatever emotions you're experiencing are gonna dictate the experiences you have in life. That's the first fundamental truth. The second idea that you must accept is that in the correct dynamic, you are leading her. Okay, she is in reaction to you. She is in the effect. Okay, that is the proper way things must be established. So if you're thinking, no, my wife is just a leader, she likes to lead, she's stubborn. No, like this is where we get a lot of pushback. But in a healthy relationship between a man and a woman, the man is the one that is leading. It doesn't mean he doesn't take his wife's opinion on it. He can take her opinion. You're always the one easing her mental load, okay, by making decisions for her, by leading her. She wants to be led unless there's some heavy trauma involved. The third fundamental truth that you must accept is the idea of emotional transference, in that your emotions through your leadership will transfer onto her. So let's say, as an example, let's say you had one of the worst days of your life, okay, at work, and it was just a horrible day. I don't mean like tragic, like life and death scenario, but you know, you almost got in a car accident, your boss was mean to you, you had a bad hair day, you spilled coffee on your shirt, everything was just going wrong, the stars were not aligned, not working in your favor, and you come home and you just want to relax, maybe go to the gym, just like unwind somehow. And you come home and let's say your kid had the best day, he learned a funny joke and he's just laughing his butt off. Like, you know, little kids, when they get in that laughing mood, it's just like, they can just light you up, right? Well, in that moment, your crappy mood, it was changed because your child was so happy, and his exuberance and jovial nature influenced the way you felt, right? And the closer we are to people, the more our emotions transfer onto each other, right? Conversely, you may have an amazing day, and if your wife's pissed off about something, she may put you in a bad mood if you're not in your frame, if you're not leading, right? So it's important to understand that your emotions, especially as the man, when you're in your masculine, you have the ability to dictate her and to influence her based on your own emotional stability. So if you agree with these 3 premises, let's look at this. Her and yours perceptions are dictated by how you emotionally feel. You're the one that is leading these emotions, okay? If you're not being reactive. And you guys transfer emotions onto each other. So if you remember the water filter theory we talked about, with the sediment going to the bottom, all that resentment. Not only does she have that resentment, also so do you. And deep down, all the things that you never express to her, the pains, the betrayals that she's had to you because you've been fighting to get her back, she has felt that, okay? So the first step of the ERM method, the first key, is removing your own resentment. The way you do this, I will share through a story. I want you to imagine that you walk outside. Now there's a Starbucks right across the street because there's a Starbucks everywhere, right? Let's say I get a nice hot cup of coffee and I have this, white nice sweater I got to record for you guys, and I'm excited to record my video, drink some coffee, and I see this guy walking toward me, but I'm checking out the video script on my phone. I see him coming toward me, but not really looking at him, and then he bumps into me. The hot coffee spills all over this sweater. Of course, he falls to the floor because I'm a big guy, I work out. And immediately, I'm pissed, I'm irate. I wanna give this guy some words, confront him. And then I see him on the floor, and my heart melts because I notice that when I bumped into him, giant black glasses and a walking cane fell off of this man when I bumped into him. He didn't see me because he was blind, and I feel like the fool for not looking. And a lot of times with the resentment that happens, the betrayals, the pain, we take it personal. But you must know that everything she's done to hurt you was not intentionally designed to hurt you. It was because she was being selfish. Even the words she said to you, it was not about you, okay? I talked about this in a previous video about paradoxes, about not taking things personal, but it is your fault. But part of removing resentment is recognizing and being able to forgive. And forgiveness is wisdom. And wisdom is a memory without emotion. And when you can look at those past betrayals and resentments that have been had and you forgive, it's like you just pour in gallons of clean, fresh water, just removing all that resentment, where you can see clearly that she is the one. And when you operate from that transference of certainty that you guys can work through this, it gets transferred over to her and you lead that. She feels it too. I want you to think of it like this. This is another analogy I use. Imagine that you're hanging on this cliff, okay? And she's on top of it, but she pushed you off. Well, she bumped into you, but she swore that she didn't mean it or she didn't bump into you, you fell. And you're hanging there and you're expecting her to pull you up, but you're also not letting go. And this is where most men are. They think they want to win their wife back, but they're not 100% certain. The smallest of doubt that creeps in, you will say 99% of the right things in conversation with her. And that one line you say out of resentment, anger, she'll hyperfixate because of her negative sentiment override in her tipping scale. She'll hyperfixate on that one word you said or that one sentence that you truly didn't mean. And she'll say, that's what you really mean. That's the truth of you, isn't it? Because you must learn to climb back up yourself, have full commitment to restoring the marriage and your masculine, to lead that. When you clear resentment, you are far less reactive to her. You create more calm confidence. And to be honest, this one key alone is 80% of getting her back and resetting her emotions. Okay, now let's talk about the second key. It's known as extreme ownership. Let me start with this quote that you probably heard before. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, you don't actually realize how much power and influence you actually have over your wife and over your marriage. Extreme ownership seeks to resolve this issue, to have you step back into that silent masculine power. Now, first, let's talk about what extreme ownership actually is. I want you to imagine for a second, you were the emperor of the world's greatest kingdom. You were in charge of thousands and thousands of lives, maybe even millions. And with all that power comes responsibility, right? Yes, but also tragedy. Plagues break out, kingdoms fight on your borders. There's raiding, there's pillaging, there's infighting people threatening to kill you within your own cabinet. Multiple of your children have died from illness and even assassination, and even your wife has died in your arms. How could you not curse God and everything else but yourself for your life? Well, that's exactly the fate of Marcus Aurelius, and he decided to still take full ownership over his life despite everything that happened to him. One of his quotes says this: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you'll find strength." That tragedy in itself is what led him into extreme ownership. And guess what? He's regarded as one of the most respected emperors to this day. I want you to apply this to your life. Are you giving away any of your power and putting things outside of your control in your situation, in your life? Not just with your marriage, anything, but with your wife specifically. Are you blaming her mental health issues, her past trauma, things that she can't get over? Her single friends are influencing her, or her therapist is in her ear. We've heard it all before. Those things were always there at the beginning, okay? Maybe except for her therapist. But the point is, it's that you guys had this encased glass crystal ball of love and nothing can get through. But through the bitterness and resentment and the fights, cracks started to appear. And that's when she started to let other outside influences and viruses affect the way she sees you because of those cracks of resentment that you never healed yourself. What extreme ownership does is it takes that crystal ball and it solidifies it. It makes it strong again so no outside influences can affect her. The biggest benefit of applying extreme ownership is that you trigger her emotional safety. See, it is in your masculine paradigm to take the lead, right? Having the perspective that your actions led to where you're at in your marriage. That may hurt on the front end. It may bruise the ego, thinking that you're not good enough. But what it does is that it leads you to focus on growing and improving. Because if you think it's not your fault, you're not gonna change. And if you don't change, your circumstance won't change. I want you to look at two different perspectives of a man in crisis. There's a leader who owns his life and a man who supplicates. The man who owns his life, his belief is that I can control how I show up. And attraction is in my hands. I can influence her. His emotions would be confident, steady, and unshakable. His actions, he would build himself emotionally, mentally, and physically, and he would lead with composure, creating emotional safety within her. Naturally, he would become the man that she gravitates toward. And the result of all of that is that the change is undeniable. Let's juxtapose that to the victim who blames everything outside of his control. Let's say his belief is that it's her friends, it's her therapist, it's her whatever it is. You put the problem outside of yourself. That person's emotions would be angry, resentful, and powerless. His actions that he would argue, he would try to control things, he would react emotionally. And what's the result of all that? He would lose his power and she would lose respect. And there's no more relationship. So the question is, how do you cultivate extreme ownership? Step 1, you must audit your excuses. What are you blaming right now? Figure it out. What is outside of your control? Write it down and then shift your focus, which is step 2. That goes from stop chasing her, stop looking for excuses, and start saying, how can I take action and control this? And the third key is to take consistent action on that. Now, this is where we come in. We have spoken to thousands of men over the past 3 years alone. So on a free call, by clicking the link down below, you can speak to one of our marriage evaluators. And in that, we can see what exact beliefs or situations or aspects of yourself that are blind to you that have pushed her further away. And then once we reveal that to you, we then give you the roadmap on how to take action on that to attract her back. Now, I only want you to set up that call by clicking the application down below. It's a short application if you are fully committed to taking action, to making a change. The third key is the Stockdale Paradox. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the brutal facts of your current reality. Admiral James Stockdale. For the third key, let's apply this paradox. You want to get her back quickly, and you're unsure if you can. This leads to high levels of anxiety. And if you remember the state transference idea, this will only cause her to feel pressure and anxiety herself, thus associating you with the source of those negative emotions, thus increasing that negative tipping scale even further. So as a solution to this, you have the Stockdale Paradox approach, which is you have high certainty that you're gonna get her back without a shadow of a doubt, but you are in no rush to do so. And I really couldn't think of a better analogy than making love to your wife. Think of a man who is rushing to have sex, trying to get to the end as fast as possible, and unsure the whole time if his wife truly even wanted to have sex with him. How would that experience be for him and for her? Probably not that good, right? But let's look at the other kind of man. The guy who is calm, who teases his wife, who is in no rush, and is certain that she wants him as much as he wants her. That would be some intense, great lovemaking, right? Look, that sexual process is a microcosm of the macro of the whole relationship you have with her. When she puts up resistance to you, you don't get anxious, you don't force it, you take it slow, you have certainty, you play with her, you flirt with her, and you have fun. If I were to give you one mindset that's gonna completely shift how you approach her, and it changes everything. With every guy that I get on that saves their marriage, when I speak to them, they had this Stockdale Paradox in their mind. Whether we taught it to them or they naturally just knew it. They always say to me, like, Josh, she is the one. She's the person I'm supposed to be with. She's just a little confused right now, and I fell off the horse, you know? I got back on. I'm in no rush to get there, and I know I will. That is the mindset you must have to succeed.
I was telling her what I wanted. Like, I wasn't asking. And that just kind of built that also, where it was like every time I did that, and when I made that mindset of I'm going to try to date her with no expectations, like I changed my tone around her, acted like, you know, when we wake up, like 'cause we were in separate beds and stuff, first time I saw her in the morning, like how would I act if we were just dating? Like I'd be happy to see her in the morning, right? My tone would be, you know, a certain way. And I just started doing that. And each time I started doing that, like I could actually see her changing.
This is why I love these calls, because you're helping me, Josh, you're helping me consolidate a new idea that I'm thinking about. Do you remember the Stockdale Paradox from the program?
Yes. Yep.
So for those who don't know, it's like it's like knowing that you're going to get the result you want, but not caring how long it takes. When it comes to this energy you're talking about, I would say like the worst way to view your wife or a relationship in general is like, I could go get someone better and like whatever, right? There's another component to it. The other side of it is like, she's the one for me no matter what. And it doesn't matter how long it takes to get her to be, you know, happy with me. Like, oh, there it is. I'm sorry. I'm going to correct myself. Okay. Ready for this? Here it is. Yep. The bad mindset is I think I can go get better. And she might eventually, she's going to stay forever, right? That is the worst mindset. Where it's like, I know she's the one, but I know she could also leave me any day. And so when guys hear that, they're probably thinking like, that's going to create anxiety and insecurity. It's like, no, because then it leads you to like, I'm going to show up as my best self. I'm going to appreciate her so much. And I could also leave too, but I know I'm committed to her. And that's what she needs. She needs that complete devotion that you know that she is like the center of your world in a way where it's like, you're going to protect and provide for her. That's what she needs. If anytime you fall off that path, any guy does, you don't lead successfully in that manner, she feels it, and that's when she tests, right?
Okay, now that you understand her, you let go of the pain and resentment, clear confidence. You're taking full responsibility of your actions to lead her to shift that scale. Now it's time to prove it to her over time that these changes are legitimate. So how do you do this? Well, this is one of the most common questions we get in our program from guys is, how do I show my wife these changes so she can believe that I'm a new man? You can't do it through logic. Now, there's a subconscious way that she gets this need met to have proof that you're stable, that you are this changed guy. And it's through the form of tests. Now, there's a massive video breakdown going over my testing framework at the end of this video. I highly recommend you wait and check it out at the end of this video, but I'll briefly go over it and give you some strategies. First, let's talk about what a test actually is. In The Way of the Superior Man, David Data frames a test as this. It's a way to gauge your strength, confidence, and emotional resilience. I want you to imagine that there was this building that resembled you. right? And she used to live in that building, but over time the foundation cracked, things were falling apart, and she felt like the building was just gonna collapse on her and she didn't feel safe. Well, she leaves the building, okay? Now, you see, on the outside, it looks like you rebuilt this. Oh, you have these changes, but she's not gonna just go jump back in and start living in the building again. She's gonna stress test it. Whatever means she does. I don't know if she's gonna take a sledgehammer, for some guys she does, or she's just gonna press on the walls, but she does have to test that building in order to feel safe to live inside again. This comes in the form of questioning your decisions, expressing doubts, or even being upset without a clear reason why. Look, she just wants to know that, yeah, you say you make these changes, but I need to see it over time. And over time, the more I test you and the more you pass it, the more I feel that you are stable, the more I'll trust you, the more I'll lean into you and want to get closer to you. The next logical question you may ask yourself is like, but like, why does she really do this? Well, if you don't understand from based off what I told you, I'll give you another reason. Women test men unconsciously to determine if they can trust the man they are with to remain strong and centered, especially in the face of emotional intensity or conflict. This is why if you minimize, you react, you get defensive, you shut down, you leave, or you yell back at her. What that shows her is that you are being reactive, unstable, and in your masculine, you must have stability and be unreactive. The underlying purpose of these tests is to not be adversarial, but to see if you will react by becoming defensive, withdrawing, or faltering, or if you will stay grounded and continue to lead with integrity. Moving forward, I want you to view every time that she's not having a moment of connection with you, it is all seen through the filter of tests, okay? In that she is putting forward this narrative, this story, this perception of you not being this man that you think you are. And whenever she challenges your ego, she challenges your identity, and you react to it, she's pressing on a wound that's already there. You see, if she was saying things that were just blatantly not true about you. Let's say she was just calling you, I don't know, a woman, right? And some guys, they will get triggered by that for whatever reason. But she was just saying something that was just blatantly not true. You would think it's ridiculous. But if you're reacting emotionally, there's something in you that she's poking on that you must figure out, that you must heal, that you must change, and you must understand. And it's often blind to men, which is why the call is so powerful. Again, like I said, the other test video is right here that goes deeper into this theory of tests. If you want to check it out, click right there. Also, there's a video right here going over a man's journey, how his wife was on the brink of divorce and he turned it around within weeks. So these two videos are available to you, and you can set up a call with our team 00. Just make sure you're fully committed, and I'll see you in the next one.